Welcome to the Intercut podcast channel, the weekly place going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he does this for a living, it's Arturo Zurita.
Whatever the mission is, Zach, I accept tenfold. Let's do it. It's time to talk about one of the greatest living, right? He's still around. You never know. You got to check. Whenever a new stunt comes out, is he still here? Tom Cruise, baby.
Absolutely. We are practically jumping on the couch with excitement for today's episode. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to determine the best Tom Cruise movie for Intercut's Tom Cruise movie bracket. We are doing this in honor of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which
he's got a new one.
Had the chance. There is yet another. We're going back for an 8th mission with Ethan Hunt.
Let's do it.
But even though that movie is not on this bracket, Ethan Hunt is really well represented across these 32 movies that we've selected, sorted by their popularity on Letterboxd. Lots of bona fide Hollywood classics, certified major blockbusters, and even a handful of auteurist-driven cinema. But Art, when I ask you the question, what is a Tom Cruise movie? What comes to mind for you?
After Night and Day, of course, I started contemplating and thinking of all the other ones and masterpieces that he's made. It's interesting when you, whatever you think it is, and then when you go through it and you realize it's more refined than you realize, right? Oh, he's the guy who does all these crazy stunts. What are your top 3 performances from him? Where he's sitting down doing like magic tricks, talking to a dead father, you know, when he's contemplating if he can sell a deal in Jerry Maguire. The man has range, dude. And the one thing that really surprised me this last run through is that he's way funnier. I think people are always realizing after the fact, we're going to go through a couple of movies that, as problematic as they were when they came out, after, and still are, people can't stop quoting those, especially when you can't even tell that it's Tom Cruise behind those roles. Everybody knows that he's an action star. But I think what comes out of the action, what comes out of the drama, and what comes out of all the projects that he picks is passion. That passion comes through whether he's on a news show, Oprah, or anything. It's that he cares. It's that every single person who's been underneath him, if we're talking outside of movies, have become proteges that have taken that to the next level. He teaches people, I've always laughed at this, how to eat their salads faster so that they can get more done in a day of filming. Like, he chops it up in little pieces. Like, those are the things that show you, no, this is a man who's like an athlete, finding every single way to be able to bat better, to get that NASCAR car for the pit crew, to get them to go around faster and faster and faster. And that's what allows him to be able to do the output that he has. Like you said, we've got another Mission Impossible movie before we got the last one out in IMAX like we were promised. But this new one is out in IMAX. It is going to be worth every single penny. And he's the guy, I guess to put it simply, that's worth going out to the movie theaters for.
Absolutely. In an era where we feel like we are losing movie stars, we're struggling to mint new movie stars, he is one of the last true bona fide movie stars. And it's funny to bring up the athlete comparison. Like, there is something to his career that is a little like, I don't know, LeBron James-esque or something. You know, LeBron famously spends like $1 million a year just on upkeep for his body and stuff. And Cruise, in a similar way, is like always really dedicated to the craft, always training, putting in the work, whether it's learning how to do that stunt, learning how to hold his breath underwater for 5 minutes, or if it's just learning to properly mix cocktails for his role as a bartender in Cocktail, or learning how to shoot pool. Like, this is a man who is really dedicated to the art of his performance. And I wouldn't necessarily call him a very naturalistic actor. He's an actor who, when I see him perform, I do feel like the performance of it, but he does have this really natural charisma to him, this sort of effervescence of a way, of a style of performance where you have to pay attention to him. He is so electric to look at on screen. He's very good at communicating his character's headspace and his feelings, and really just showing off his charm. You mentioned that he's very funny. Like, as weird as we've come to find out he still is able to really sell a joke and be very, very charismatic in the right role. He's just so, like, he's not necessarily, like I said, natural, but he is such a natural star. And the thing is, there's been sort of phases to Cruise's career, right? He comes along at first and he's kind of the hot shot. He's in a lot of these roles where it's like, well, who's this guy? And he's so brash and he brings a lot of attitude. Then he kind of evolves into more of like an unflappable cool guy where he's the like major American movie star. He's probably the biggest star on the planet. He has his little like fading from the spotlight moment, and where we learn perhaps a bit too much about his personal life. And then he has his more recent phase where he's basically American Jackie Chan. Likewise, don't look into their personal lives, right? But like
to both too. Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy, the layers that goes in. And he could be, because his physical comedy, like Jackie's, could really get there if he wanted to. That's a good call.
Yeah, definitely. But it's their ability to, you know, be kind of these almost regular seeming guys. You know, neither he nor Jackie Chan necessarily look like they could beat you up, but they are so tough and so gifted with their bodies and able to put their own personal safety on the line to create these incredible movie stunts. And it you know, it brings back the tradition of like the silent movie stars. He's practically Buster Keaton-esque in his current dedication to making the best on-screen film possible.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm excited. Out of all of these, is there a specific era that stood out to you the most? Is it someone who you're like from the jump? He's in it. Is it that second era?
It's interesting, right? Because there are so many different phases to what Tom Cruise did, and I think of my favorites as the sort of middle period when he is challenging himself and working with interesting directors, when he is working with Stanley Kubrick and Paul Thomas Anderson and taking on these kind of challenging roles. But one thing that I've realized in going back through some of these movies and rewatching or watching some things for the first time, there's really something about young Tom Cruise and just the energy he brings on screen that is kind of hard to deny. Those are a lot of the roles that I think stood out to me on rewatch.
There's this bit in Jerry Maguire when he gets fired and he goes, I know you all expected me to flip out. And I'm like, bro, this is what you did on Oprah. What?
Yeah.
Are you that self-aware? When are you not performing almost? And I found that so intriguing. To me, it's also a matter of like, when do you get into him? And for me, it would have been in the early 2000s on that area of Minority Report, War of the Worlds. And then I backtracked to all the other stuff as well. But it's like, I don't think there's ever been, like you were breaking down his decades, where maybe at the beginning or at the end it wavers a bit, but he always closes out or begins a decade strong.
For sure. Do you remember your first Tom Cruise movie? I feel like in a small way, it's like, do you remember the first time you breathed air? Because he's just so like part of the language of cinema. He's like water for movies. I want to say that I feel like I first came across him in like Jerry Maguire, because I don't think I was like super into some of the actiony stuff that he did when I was younger. But I think maybe the first time that I was like aware of his power as a movie star in a new movie was probably Collateral. That was a movie that really just jumped out to me as like, ooh, he's really on.
What year is Collateral? Again, that's that era I'm talking about.
Yeah, 2004, working with Michael Mann.
04? Yeah, so all of those, damn. So I don't know, right, in the 90s what I was watching. But I know theatrically, War of the Worlds, I remember specifically. I loved that movie, everything that came in there. I know that that's the first movie I saw in theaters. And I know immediately afterwards, I don't think I saw Collateral in theaters. But whenever I saw it, that's the one where it stuck with me thoroughly. Minority Report, I know I saw at home because I rented it from Blockbuster. I know the room I saw it in my house when it became one of my favorite movies as well. It was just back to back to back in that 03-04 era, which is really when I was getting into stuff as well. That's when I got into, that's when Lost was starting up and everything. So it was like an incredible era to really get into media, in my opinion. You have all the 90s to go back to as well.
It's the era where things or DVDs are starting to become accessible. Like the mail-in movie services are there, but Blockbuster is still around, and
we're so spoiled,
the internet
bro.
hasn't ruined everything.
We still are able to, as old heads, get a little bit of the before times, so we know how to connect an HDMI. We know how to blow in a disc or a cartridge, and just those things you don't need to ask Jeeves or anybody else about. That era was fantastic. So theatrically, for sure, War of the Worlds, the sound, everything about it, I was like, whoa, this is a movie. And then his Spielberg collaboration to follow that, if it wasn't before, Minority Report blew my mind.
Yeah.
You're mentioning Collateral, which is going to do some heavy damage here. And then from there, he just becomes... I'm also a big fan of Mission Impossible 3. I know that comes with some strings as well, but that was JJ jumping into movies after doing Lost. The entire 2000s era for sure.
Yeah, we're going to have to untangle which Mission Impossible movie is which, because we got 7 of them on our bracket. But with a career as long as Cruise's, approaching 45 years in the industry, it's also almost impossible to cover every single movie. So there are a few Cruise classics that did not make our final cut. His cameo as Austin Powers in Goldmember, sadly,
we argued about
absent
this one
from our bracket. Yeah, I mean, it was a tough cut, but decisions had to be made. Jack Reacher 2, American Made, Lions for Lambs, Rock of Ages, Far and Away, Taps, Endless Love, Legend, the aforementioned Cocktail, and All the Right Moves we decided was not the right fit for this bracket of 32. Are we cutting Valkyrie, or should we cut the Mummy remake?
I'm sure whatever it goes against, it's going to lose. But I will shout out Valkyrie for the main reason of it being the movie that got him tied with Macquarie. Macquarie wrote that movie, and from there, it really readjusts the entirety of the Mission Impossible franchise and a lot of the other stuff that they've done. To me, I think it serves a little blip of importance in his career.
Yeah.
What do you think about
Probably
Valkyrie?
worth the mention, but not a movie that I think is a real threat to go far in the bracket. So we'll leave it off the final 32.
You need to stop erasing these World War II movies, Zach. Yeah, I see you, bro. World War II happened, okay?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be Paramount Plus here, but
Stop
I'm not so sure
him.
that he was on the right side of that conflict in that movie. Anyway, in a little bit, we will be talking about Tom Cruise movies, but first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/IntercutPod or the audio podcast available on most podcatchers. We're on video on Spotify as well, if that's the kind of thing that you like. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, in Twitter, Instagram, whatever you have. It is at Intercut Pod. That's Intercut POD, and POD is short for podcast. It was also like a metal alt rock group in like the mid 2000s era that we're talking about. Remember, like Boom, Here Comes the Boom. As long as we're talking about 2004,
Here Comes the Boom. I know the movie.
You can also support the show for as little as $3 a month right here on YouTube by clicking the join button on our page to become a member, or by going to patreon.com/intercutpod and signing up to join the Intercuties, where you get early access to episodes like this one, access to an exclusive chat channel on our Discord server, which you could sign up for in the description of any episode, and you get an invitation to our monthly Intercutie video calls. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If we get to 250 5-star reviews on Apple, will Tom Cruise run his way to your house and help you escape an explosion? You have to provide the
different
explosion,
cuts.
though.
In different cuts, though. I'm going to have to restart every single time. We'll do some stitching.
There we go. Lots of movie magic in the works. Anyway, let's get into our Tom Cruise bracket. 32 movies, as we said, organized by their popularity on Letterboxd. And we start
And the winner is Magnolia.
His most popular movie, as well as his most financially successful movie. Hard to imagine that he hadn't had a movie make as much money as Top Gun Maverick until Top Gun Maverick.
That's
but
crazy.
we're going with the 2022 release of Top Gun Maverick versus a classic Tom Cruise film from 1990, Days of Thunder, which stars Tom Cruise as the delightfully named Cole Trickle, a talented but unproven stock car driver. The movie is directed by my man, Tony Scott. And perhaps in retrospect, the most notable thing about it is this is the movie where he meets Nicole Kidman, who he would later not only marry, but co-star with in a Stanley Kubrick film that we'll get into.
Yep.
But Days of Thunder, it's not a movie that either of us felt particularly compelled to rewatch in preparation for this bracket.
Once we get into F1, maybe, that we'll get into into the mode. But yeah, it's always cool to see the collaborations with Tony Scott and all the movies that he was able to come out, because I feel like that's a director where it's his little trademarks, regardless of it being like a massive movie, that end up getting passed on.
Definitely. Our next matchup is between Mission Impossible 2 and Mission Impossible 3. Mission Impossible 2 from the year 2000 was the one directed by John Woo. It's the one with lots of slow motion and hand-to-hand combat, right? And then Mission Impossible 3, as you mentioned, your beloved, directed by J.J. Abrams. It's the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain, which always is a benefit for me. And the rabbit's foot? That's the rabbit's foot, right?
Yeah, and the introduction of Michelle Monaghan.
Everybody knows what it is. What is the rabbit's foot? Art.
A MacGuffin.
We're going to choose Mission Impossible 3 here, but anything worth mentioning on Mission Impossible 2?
Oh, I wasn't sure. There are Mission Impossible 2 truthers out there, and they are liars. That's what they are. I like Mission Impossible 2. It's fun. It's goofy. The eyeball scene. He begins in Utah, no? Just hanging out on the mountainside from the rock climbing, and there was a whole insurance thing. Mission Impossible 2 is what really begins the idea of him testing, as you guys know, behind the scenes, his insurance policies for each one of these movies. Without Mission Impossible 2, it doesn't open up the floodgates, but I gotta go 3.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed Mission Impossible 2 as a just true believer in the franchise. Yeah. But I don't know, man. Mission Impossible 3, there's just more fun stuff there.
Some people hate 3, bro. They hate 3. Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, I'm not.
Why do I know
I don't think
their
I love
hate?
it as much
That's
as
weird
you
to me.
do.
Yeah. Which is fine, right? But why is there a group dedicated to the hate of Mission Impossible 3? I'll never understand that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a step too far for me. I don't hate any of the Mission Impossible movies.
It does have a Kanye song, so maybe I understand that one. Have you ever heard the Kanye song from Mission Impossible 3?
No, I don't know if I have.
Oh, when I found that out, they commissioned him to do a song. Oh, you're going to have to listen to it. Bro, Yeezy on the Mission Impossible 3 official soundtrack.
Better or worse than the Radiohead song that didn't get chosen for the Bond movie? Probably better.
A little worse. Maybe.
All right. Tropic Thunder versus Oblivion. Of course, Tropic Thunder is Ben Stiller's 2008 Hollywood blockbuster satire in which Tom Cruise has a relatively small but very important role as Les Grossman, movie studio head, in a fat suit and all. This was at a time when Tom Cruise was sort of wavering in the public eye, so this was a really surprising and very, very funny reveal. He, of course, has a friendship with Ben Stiller that dates back to Ben Stiller making fun of the Mission Impossible movies during the MTV Movie Awards and stuff like that.
That's a good one, yeah. I remember that.
Tropic Thunder is going up against Oblivion from 2013, which stars Cruise as one of the last drone repairmen stationed on a post-apocalyptic Earth. The film marked Cruise's first collaboration with filmmaker Joseph Kosinski, who would go on to direct Cruise's most successful film, Top Gun Maverick. Art, do you like Oblivion? Did you catch Oblivion?
Yeah, I caught it in theaters. It was a Movie Pass movie in the early years. It's when we were starting reviewing as well. It's around our YouTube Inception years. So obviously I have a good, nice little warm spot for Oblivion. I think it's an interesting movie. I like Olga in the movie, who he hasn't brought back to work with in a bit. But I liked Oblivion when it was called Moon.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is Oblivion, I enjoyed it, but I did find it to be kind of derivative of a lot of other science fiction movies, right? Yeah. It just doesn't really stand out the way that a lot of his other movies did. And that Tropic Thunder cameo is just so memorable. It might not be a Tom Cruise movie, but Tom Cruise is so good in that movie.
The fact that it's still being used to this day, yeah. You were saying a fat suit. That man had a hair suit on, bro. That was like another layer on that body. All right.
Our next matchup is Jack Reacher versus Mission Impossible. The first one, Jack Reacher from 2012, is an adaptation of the popular book character. The film is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, as you mentioned, who would then go on to direct the next 4 Mission Impossible movies. Valkyrie was the first movie they worked together on, but this was the first movie that McQuarrie directed they worked together on. He was just the writer on Valkyrie. It's going up against Mission Impossible, which launched the Mission Impossible franchise.
Exactly.
This film from 1996, directed by Brian De Palma, is responsible for some of the most iconic movie set pieces of all time.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that we're picking Jack Reacher in this matchup.
Absolutely not. Any words for Jack Reacher?
Not really. I saw it, but there's so little I remember from it. It was in that sort of like lull of Cruise's career where it feels like he was searching for his next hit and couldn't find it.
Oblivion, Jack Reacher, all these different things. Again, movie pastimes, and I didn't even care to check in for that one for free. I knew it was going to be mid when it was the one movie where out of everything that he's been in, you could tell he's short. There's something about the way they shot Jack Reacher where McQuarrie and him did not realize, like, hey, you got to get the step stool out the way or however you do it. You could just tell he's a short king. But that's the one movie where you could really see it. I'm just saying.
He rocks it. A lot of the movies try to hide it, but he holds it well. That being said, I also think Jack Reacher is like a notably tall character in the books. So
that's why I'm so confused. Because they made it seem like he was Jack reaching, like that's what it was. Like he couldn't fight the actual guy.
Yeah,
it's mid, bro. No one remembers it.
Exactly, and it's since come along and basically been replaced by the Alan Ritchie series, right? That people seem to really love on Prime.
Yeah, that man stole it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I cannot think of two completely opposite looking figures. Alan's way better at it. Watch it on Prime.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning versus The Mummy. Dead Reckoning would be the 7th movie in the franchise, up against the 2017 remake of The Mummy, directed by Alex Kurtzman.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
I think that movie is mostly remembered for... Was it Warner Brothers releasing the trailer with some of the sound missing?
I don't know who he pissed off. But one thing we're not going to have on the bracket is all of the on-set yelling that he's done, right? Probably some of the most infamous things come from this man. And I want to say he probably did some of that in The Mummy. Someone slipped out the audio. I don't know. I think it was the best part of the movie. Nobody cared for that movie. They tried remaking this whole universe how many times before they gave it to Lee Wiynell? That's how bad they did that they went, hey, yo, can you just do the monster? You know the pictures, bro. Bardem, everybody sitting down there. It's going to be so massive. Nothing. Lee Wiynell's now redoing the Monsterverse with Wolfman and Invisible Woman. But it was going to be a franchise. They dropped the ball so bad on there. So even though Dead Reckoning does something to a character that they should have never done, I'm going to give it to Dead Reckoning.
Yeah, same. Let's talk about A Few Good Men versus Rain Man. This is a battle of a
first
couple.
Good matchup. Yeah, it's the first battle.
Stone Cold Cruise classics here.
Here we go.
A Few Good Men is the classic Rob Reiner film from 1992, written by Aaron Sorkin based on his play. A really, really stacked cast in this one too. Not just Cruise, but Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, Kevin Bacon, Kiefer Sutherland, Kevin Spollock, my guy Noah Wiley from The Pit, Cuba Gooding Jr., Josh Molina, lots of people, Christopher Guest, lots of people show up in this movie.
But can I hit you with Dustin freaking Hoffman?
Right. Probably like one of the all-time two-handers, Rain Man, the 1988 film, which sees Tom Cruise as a car salesman who returns home after his father's death to discover a savant older brother named Raymond. That one is directed by Barry Levinson. It's really hard to pick between these two movies.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
But
which way do you instinctively lean?
Bro, look, I know you can handle the truth. It's Rain Man. I have to go Rain Man. And it's crazy because any other day I understand why people would go A Few Good Men. Of course, it's A Few Good Men. There's just something in Rain Man, bro. I truly think that Dustin Hoffman is underrated while being rated exactly what he should be. He is one of the greatest actors of our generation, dude.
Oh, yeah.
The way Rain Man has been referenced and look from The Hangover, how they homage it to everything else. These two really kill it here. And this is what I mean when we're talking about all these action set pieces that he does. But these two movies showcase, give this man a script, let him talk. His facial expressions alone, we don't need him jumping up and down. What he does in both of these movies is so great, and there's just something about him with Dustin that I'm just going to put it over the edge. All the emotions that come in there. You have an incredible cast. I understand if you go for A Few Good Men. But Rain Man's my pick here, bro. And I highly recommend for you to watch it. Check it out. Rent it. It's one of those movies that'll become an instant classic for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie that I think has grown maybe a little less popular through time, especially because of the way that it depicts Dustin Hoffman's character, because it's sort of like an autism spectrum
Autism,
thing, but
yeah.
he's this savant, and obviously they parody the famous casino scenes with Zach Galifianakis' character in The Hangover. But I think even despite all the like parody and shifting opinions on how certain things should be portrayed in movies, there's just something about Rain Man that is a little hard to deny. The heart of it and the performances of it, like you mentioned, it's just like such a phenomenal pairing between him and Dustin Hoffman. They're so opposite each other but work so well in that movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with A Few Good Men. Like I think
Nothing.
the bracket shakes out differently. It's totally like a top 8 contender, top 4 contender. I might give the edge to Rain Man as well.
Hey, what do you want? Accountant 2? I'll take this autistic brothership duo over Ben Affleck trying to play a guy with autism.
Right.
Out in theaters
All right,
now.
Let's talk about Collateral versus War of the Worlds, the matchup that I think we're dreading, talking about that glorious time in the early 2000s, falling in love with movies through movies like these. Collateral, as we mentioned, directed by Michael Mann. It sees Tom Cruise, a hitman, wind up in the back seat of Jamie Foxx's cab for a night around LA, taking care of a few clients. War of the Worlds is directed by Steven frickin' Spielberg from 2005. The film is about the end of the world, an alien invasion that Tom Cruise must navigate with his young son and daughter. These are easy for me, top 10 Tom Cruise movies. Probably both of them at least fighting for that top 5. I love these movies. I love these performances too. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to take the first bite at this one?
Nah, go for it.
All right. Well, as much as I love both of them, I think my love for Collateral is just a bit stronger. I think his performance there, which, you know, in another timeline could have kind of been like a swan songy type of performance. He's finally showing some gray in the hair, and he's a bit withered, and he feels like he's exhausted from a long career. I just think the dynamic between him and Jamie Foxx in the movie is so compelling. They play so well off of each other. And when I just think about his ability as a performer to make you care with a look on his face, I just think about certain glares he has in that movie, where he's able to communicate so much and not say much at all, yet has these moments of humor, has these moments of charisma. I love Collateral. It's a movie that I revisit quite often. And as much as I hate to do it to War of the Worlds, I'm going to go with Collateral here.
Like I said, War of the Worlds was one of the first ones that I saw in theaters with this man, and I thought technically, I think it still holds up. I know the little eyeball alien contraption things that goes looking for them may have aged a little bit, but I think you watch it watch the Blu-ray, not the 4K, and the artifacts kind of get in the way of it. I think it still looks cool. It's the end of the world, but it's also a relationship movie with his kids. The idea that one has moved on and is ready to not have a relationship with him, but he still has like one strand with Dakota Fanning's character, right? You have Dakota Fanning in her prime too, dude. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I always blink on the other guy's name. I know he ended up playing Goku and stuff. For years, I thought that man was Billy Joe Armstrong, bro. I thought
he looks a little bit like him.
Bro, I thought Green Day was doing double duties. He was an actor, and he was singing on the side. No, completely different guy. I'm surprised he never did any American Idiot stuff. But
Justin Chatwin, by the way.
Justin Chatwin, who's back. He's in something recently.
Was he the dad in Sweetness, and we were forced to evaluate how old we are?
Sweetness, damn, and we all said that. Look, I like the story in there. I even like how deep they get into it. Not just the technical aspects of updating the story of War of the Worlds, but the idea that this happened post 9/11, right? We're talking about a slew of movies that are coming out after we've processed it. People have put into production movies, and War of the World was this idea of these aliens that come from underground, things that were seeded and planted here long ago in order to be able to find the cracks in America, in order to be able to take it over. It is a profound movie. It is more than a popcorn flick. It comes from Spielberg. He's doing all these really great things with it, but just like him playing a dad in there, this feels like when they tell you to pick one of your favorites out of your kids, and for a lot of people, it's hard. It ain't for me. It's Collateral, bro. It's Collateral, baby. It's Collateral every single day. And that's from someone who loves War of the Worlds. But in Collateral, my man Jamie Foxx lost to himself. Well, I guess he was nominated for a different category. But nonetheless, you were talking about great acting. Yeah, he was nominated for 2 roles in 1 year. Worth it, thoroughly. And I know we'll be talking more about Collateral, but Michael Mann, last movie that he shot with those lights before they switched everything to LEDs, a conversation you and I were talking about earlier in terms of lights. So it's one of the final movies that you can actually see cameras capture what real lights would display when they're going down these streets, because now that they're LEDs, you cannot get the look of this movie unless they swapped them all out. And guess who did that? Michael Mann, for one of his new stuff. He swapped out all the lights. Yeah, I could talk more about what he did there, but we'll have another round for Collateral. Yeah, we'll have another round for Collateral.
But the look of Collateral is just so amazing. But
incredible.
Hard to eliminate War of the Worlds, which is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi films, and just like alien invasion movies in general.
It's good.
Just so many sequences that are so harrowing, and just the whole like sequence where like look in my eyes is so burned in my brain too.
Bro, when they're playing catch and he just keeps throwing it harder and harder and harder. I love the parts of the movie that have nothing to do with the aliens. Really good stuff. Oh, time for an even harder one.
Night and Day up against Magnolia. Night and Day from 2010 sees Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz stars a fugitive couple who go on a deadly adventure. To me, this was the movie that sort of kind of like officially marked there's something being wrong with Tom Cruise's career, because it felt like a movie that should have been a big hit, him and another movie star and like an action comedy, and it just sort of landed with a thud. People didn't really care.
This is that date night era. They started remaking this type of movie forever, where it couldn't just be a comedy romantic night. No, there had to be like some action sprinkled in. It's like,
and it's a action romantic comedy, and it doesn't do any 3 of those genres particularly well. It's going up against Magnolia, P.T. Anderson's emotional epic in which Tom Cruise plays a men's rights activist sex guru of sorts.
Crazy.
Yeah, Frank T.J. Mackey, one of his all-time most memorable characters. I just don't think we're going to eliminate Magnolia this early in a bracket that I am voting on. I'm sorry.
No, that is the point right there, is to just not even mention Night and Day. Just go straight to it. All right.
Let's talk about Top Gun, the original from 1986, directed by Tony Scott, versus The Firm from 1993. Top Gun, of course, is the classic film in which Lieutenant Pete Maverick and his friend Goose are accepted into a training school for fighter pilots, and tragedy then soon befalls them. The Firm, Cruise plays Mitch McDeere, who's offered a wonderful life by a prestigious law firm, but after he accepts the job, the FBI contacts him and forces him to choose between working with the feds or staying with the firm. Ooh. It is directed by Sidney Pollack, and it is based on a John Grisham novel. I hadn't seen this one before preparing for this bracket episode. And, it is a very classic kind of John Grisham-esque legal thriller of sorts. Cruise navigating the aftermath of this crime that seems like a small, not very important incident, and gradually getting deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole into this conspiracy that involves cover-ups of the Chicago Mafia. It's a really like entertaining, suspenseful, very kind of like mid-90s style, early 90s style of movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't know if it is quite as iconic as Top Gun, but I do think I enjoyed it more than Top Gun.
Interesting.
That said, I wouldn't fight you too hard if you want to give this matchup to Top Gun.
I gotta give it to Top Gun. Just for the iconography alone, for what it represents, for the score. We're talking about Tony Scott, and we're talking about those sunsets. I don't think anyone's done it like him since. And recently, one of our players for the Cubs, his walkout music, bro, was the Top Gun team. So every time Turner was coming out, do 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 do. I have to go for Top Gun, bro. I gotta go Top Gun.
All right, so we give that matchup to Top Gun, and we move on to Vanilla Sky versus Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Okay.
Vanilla Sky from 2001 sees Cruise play David Ames, a man who is disfigured in a car accident and whose life becomes blurred between illusion and reality. Directed by Cameron Crowe, him working with Cameron Crowe again after their iconic work together on Jerry Maguire, and a bit of a departure for Cameron Crowe, who was known a lot more for romantic dramas and comedies up until that point, working in more of like a mystery suspense zone on Vanilla Sky. It's going up against Mission Impossible Rogue Nation from 2015, which sees Ethan Hunt and his team fighting the Syndicate. So Rogue Nation, this is the one where he is he's scaling the Burj Khalifa. No, which one is this one?
No, you are. No, Ghost Protocol is the one where he's doing the Burj Khalifa. This is the follow-up one where they have him on the side of the plane. And he's going like that. And where he goes, oh my God.
Yes.
Rogue Nation is the one at the Opera House where we get introduced to one of the greatest characters in this franchise with Rebecca Ferguson's character. So, yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff in this one. This is the one where they're doing a lot of like bike rides around France and stuff. Rogue Nation's good. Great. It's solid. I don't know how you feel about Vanilla Sky. That was one that watching it when I was younger was like, okay, this is really interesting. I've heard a lot of people mention that there are similar Spanish movies that kind of cover what they cover in this movie that I haven't seen yet. Maybe I'm due a rewatch for Vanilla Sky. I'm sure someone is watching this as a Vanilla Sky truther. Tell me what I need to know to go back and watch this one. Because to me right now, Rogue Nation and just the scene where Rebecca Ferguson takes out the rifle in order to shoot him on the other side, yeah, I don't think a scene of Vanilla Sky is beating that one for me.
Yeah, I like Rogue Nation quite a bit. And I don't know, there are those Vanilla Sky defenders out there, some people who think it is a sort of like overlooked masterpiece. I haven't revisited it in that way. I remember kind of like you finding it interesting and a bit confusing, but maybe I wasn't yet ready to see Cameron Crowe's full vision on that one. But I will go with Rogue Nation as well in that matchup.
Sounds good.
All right, our next one is going to be another really difficult one because we're going with Minority Report versus Jerry Maguire. Minority Report from 2002, directed by Steven Spielberg, sees Tom Cruise play John Anderton, a top pre-crime cop who uses precognition technology to fight crimes before they've even been committed. On the other hand, Jerry Maguire from 1996 sees Cruise star as Jerry Maguire, a typical successful sports agent who does anything for his client, but whose life comes undone when he's let go from his job at his sports agency and must start over with only one client, Rod Tidwell. Did you say you rewatched Jerry Maguire for this bracket?
Yeah, the draft was going on, and I needed to watch what an agent is supposed to be doing in the background, and I think it still stands up.
How do you think Jerry Maguire would handle the Shadur Sanders situation?
One, I think he would have had him in Green Bay, first off. He would have made sure that he had the extra cell on him to not get the prank call on camera.
He would prepped him a little bit more for those interviews with teams, maybe coach him a bit on professionalism.
Of many things. But for sure, the one thing that would have stayed the same was after going that far back, he would have still been yelling, someone please show me the money. Jerry Maguire is great.
It is so good.
What's her name? Yeah, I see why she dominated the 90s, 2000s, bro. Are you kidding me? Girl Next Door material, just perfect in what she does.
Yeah.
Renee Zellweger, and then you got her with the kid from The Little Vampire from Stuart Little. just an
Jonathan
adorable
Lipnicki.
face. Whew,
The human
come
head
on,
weighs
that-
5 pounds. I think I got that right.
I think that's all it is that boy does. It's just a cute little smile.
8 pounds.
Kills you in the scene. Crazy stuff, bro.
Yeah.
I gotta go Minority Report. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, Minority Report, I think it's another one of those things where because it's directed by Steven Spielberg and it's probably not like a top 5 Spielberg movie, maybe not even like a top 10 Spielberg movie.
Hey.
Sorry. I mean,
We'll have to do a Spielberg bracket then.
I think we did one a while ago, and Minority Report might have won it because we both really love Minority Report.
Hey.
But it does feel like it gets overlooked in a lot of those discussions.
Of course it
even
does.
Though, like, it always comes up because it feels like it pre-conceptualized so many ideas, whether it is sort of
Isn't
like
that crazy?
AR, VR technology, or even like we see dystopian elements of trying to, predict crime and develop these lists and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I don't know. Minority Report, maybe it'll just even become more and more prescient as we
Easily.
move forward, and it will, assert its rightful place as an all-time classic. I feel like we're gonna get some people upset with us for not going with Jerry Maguire, and I love Jerry Maguire. That is like an
That's
all-time
great.
romantic comedy for me. You had me at hello, but I'll join you, man. I'm going Minority Report.
Minority
I
Report,
can't
dude.
vote against it.
The
Minority
only
Report's
bad
great.
thing about Minority Report is that they try to make that, I think, Fox remake series. They had a series.
I
Hey,
wiped
no one
it from
was
my
able
mind.
to. No one was able to see the future that was not going to work. That was a crime in and of itself.
Oh man. Sorry to the Cameron Crowe heads out there. We've eliminated both of his movies in the first round.
It's going to be
I
Cameron
think we've
himself.
left the best
typing.
stuff. Yeah. All right. Risky Business versus Edge
Go.
of Tomorrow. Risky Business, in a lot of ways, the movie that puts Tom Cruise on the map from 1983, where he plays Joel Goodson, a college-bound 17-year-old whose parents go away, leaving him alone in a wealthy Chicago suburb when he crashes his father's Porsche and must raise money in some unsavory, maybe even risky ways. It's going up against Edge of Tomorrow from 2014, directed by Doug Liman, the film that sees Tom Cruise try to survive a mission in space only to be returned to the beginning of the day over and over again and need to break out of the time loop. He co-stars with Emily Blunt in that movie. I feel like Risky Business is an important movie for a lot of people.
Dude,
and
yeah.
fundamental movie for a lot of people. It's a coming of age film that a lot of people connect to, that was maybe a little bit before both of our times. So just because I don't necessarily have that connection with it, I lean towards Edge of Tomorrow in this matchup.
I feel like we've seen 2 movies this year that use Risky Business as like a really big part of their story. One was a South by movie that's going to be coming out to Hulu.
Summer of '69.
And I feel like there was another one as well, but every year you
Probably.
have someone talking about Risky
It is
Business. You have people
one of the
saying
most
they came out
referenced-
to Risky Business.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even commercials and stuff.
Everything. But that's one scene. Edge of Tomorrow repeats things. And look, y'all can have the Risky Business scene with him coming in with the socks. I'm going to take Emily Blunt doing that push-up up, baby. Let's go. I'm going to take it if it's Edge of Tomorrow. I'm going to take it if it's Kill. What was the name of it? Do you remember? Kill, Repeat. It used to be called All You Need Is Kill. Because that's what the novel's called.
Live, Die, Repeat.
There's something meta going on there. I'll take it as well. Well, however you want to call it. Just give me the sequel. Just give me the sequel.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We're going with Edge of Tomorrow. The next matchup, Mission Impossible
Educate me here, bro.
Fallout versus
This may be the first time we
Color
argue.
of
Okay.
Money. All right, this is going to be a tough one because Mission Impossible Fallout it
Is
might
the
be
best
the best
Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Just
think
all right,
we
so
both
we're not
agree
fighting
on
yet.
that.
Okay.
The Color of Money. It's from 1986. It is about former pool hustler Fast Eddie Felson, who takes a pupil under his wings in the Green Vincent Lauria. The Color of Money is directed by none other than Martin Scorsese. Never heard of him. And it is a sequel to 1961's The Hustler.
Hustler.
Which is
That's so cool.
Yeah. Also stars Paul Newman. So we revisit the iconic Paul Newman character 25 years later.
That's fascinating.
And the cool thing
That's so
about The
smart.
Hustler is you have Paul Newman, one of the all-time classic Hollywood movie stars, leading men, adored sex symbol icon,
Salad
great
dressing.
actor, salad dressing, popcorn, all the works.
You got a salad dressing from him that you like? His Caesar's
I mean,
crazy, bro. His Caesar's
pretty-
good.
I'm a pretty plain, like an oil and vinegar kind of guy. So,
Ooh, okay, a little balsamic.
But I mess with some Newman's Own. Paul Newman here is, starting to show his gray hairs, starting to get a little bit up there in years, got a few wrinkles on his face. He's leaving his phase as one of the iconic Hollywood leading men, and Tom Cruise here is just starting. And you kind of get the guy at the beginning of the movie star career and the guy at the sort of end of the iconic career. And here you have him sort of literally, and then also in a meta way, instructing Tom Cruise on the proper way to handle himself, the way to act, how to properly sell himself in certain scenes, because he's literally giving him acting tips as his character in the movie. There's so much going on here, and both Newman and Cruise are just absolutely kinetic in this film. The way Scorsese shoots nine ball, you would think that it's the most exciting sport around. There's so many incredible sequences here where they're going toe to toe. It is a really, really iconic film, and they are so good together. It also means so much in the arc of his career.
Yeah, they tell you who you hang out with will change the trajectory, and he did it, right?
Yeah.
We've even talked about the idea of what it's going to be next.
Right, like he's setting himself up beautifully for a potential Color of Money sequel with like him and Glenn Powell or something like that.
It's got to be Glenn. It's got to be Glenn. Worst thing would be it's Miles.
Yeah, I would be okay with Miles, but it feels
I like Miles too, but
even he
it's
wants
Glenn.
it to be Glenn.
It's Glenn. No, I like that idea of it. I like the meta-ness of it. I also like that it inspired one of the best episodes of Drake and Josh called Pool Shark, when they try to get they try hustling a lot of people out of their money. But are you convinced? Because it's going to have to be you who's going to argue for the Color of Money, because Mission Impossible Fallout uses some of the best use of IMAX, and I am an IMAX ho, as you know. So how am I not going to be leading for that one? Hey. Do you remember?
I was about to say, like, nobody cocks their fists in the Color of Money, so it's
I
a
ain't
little
even
bit
got to
tough.
describe it. Oh, if they did that with the pool stick, we're done.
There is some really awesome pool stick action. Tom Cruise does a lot of like whipping it around like nunchucks or whatever.
Yeah.
And look, I don't know. Historically, maybe this is blasphemous to say.
They're going to call us new heads.
I'm gonna go with Mission Impossible Fallout. I love that franchise, and it. I would even say I would maybe choose Color of Money over every single other Mission Impossible movie. But in this bracket, it is unfortunately up against Fallout.
I would agree.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to Scorsese. I guess we are not cinema, but we are going to choose Mission Impossible Fallout here and go on to the next matchup, which is between The Last Samurai and Interview with a Vampire. Last Samurai from 2003 sees Cruise playing Nathan Algren, an American hired to instruct the Japanese army who has to learn to respect the ways of the samurai. Its opponent here, Interview with a Vampire from 1994, is the story of a vampire relaying his life story to a journalist, including how he was turned into a vampire by a vampire named Lestat de Lioncourt, who is played by Tom Cruise. The Last Samurai, I kind of enjoyed this movie when it first came out, and I hadn't yet heard of the word problematic. It's got a really fantastic Ken Watanabe performance that was nominated for supporting actor for his work there. And I think Cruise is also
Ken was on a run that
good in this movie. But like, I don't know, it's not a movie that I've been particularly compelled to revisit, or a movie that like I like loved. I thought it was pretty good when I saw it back in the late 2000s. Interview with the Vampire is one that I watched for the first time in order to prepare for this episode, and I quite liked it. It's got a pretty interesting sort of take on vampire lore and legacy, and this idea of having lived this long life, and the sort of like ennui that comes from that endless type of life. It's funny because Brad Pitt is the star of this movie. He is the vampire that gets interviewed, but I do think it is Tom Cruise who really steals most of it. He is like really having a lot of fun. Yeah, he's really leaning into the kind of tropiness of the accent and just the revelry of it. I really enjoy Tom Cruise in Interview with a Vampire, and I think it might be the slightly better movie as well.
Go for it. The one thing I'll say about Last Samurai, Hiroyuki did a lot of the advising there, and as he said with Shogun, they only took 50%. Shogun is what happens when you take 100% of his advice. Right. I'll leave it at that.
Right. Let's talk about Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol versus The Outsiders. The Outsiders is from 1983, and it's about tensions igniting between two rival gangs after Johnny and Ponyboy are assaulted. It also is a collection of a lot of the hottest young actors of that era, with people like Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, and Emilio Estevez in it. It's one of the movies that sort of birthed the idea of the Rat Pack. It is a movie that Tom Cruise has a supporting but memorable performance in as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol from 2011 is directed by Brad Bird. I believe it's the last Mission Impossible movie before Christopher McQuarrie took over.
Yeah.
And it is, I think it's one that gets really overlooked. You're saying this is the one that has the one that has the Burj Khalifa sequence, right?
Shot in 1:4:3 real IMAX.
Yeah. It's full of like really memorable set pieces. Not just that, but another one that has like an iconic motorcycle chase through Dubai, I believe.
This is the one that's got the mirror thing with Simon Pegg?
The moving mirror in the hallway?
The moving, yeah. Incredible sequence. People are copying that to this day. Paula Patton in the movie. This is where they tried getting Jeremy Renner. He wasn't getting Jason Bourne. They're like, maybe a little bit here. Right. That man's just been in the back burner. It's a great one, dude. And when the last one came out, and I was making my video about the IMAX for Dead Reckoning, I was going back to rewatch a lot of the special features I had never seen for that one. You will get vertigo off of watching the behind the scenes. Do yourself a favor, even if you're not going to rewatch the movie, go search up the behind the scenes. It is unbelievable what they did. And now that everybody's getting more and more into IMAX, especially with Sinners being out, because we're talking about vampires and we're talking about IMAX, that one really using it, people understanding the difference in what you get. I mean, what better thing to use a tall aspect ratio than the Burj Khalifa, bro? It is.
Right.
And you're right. It is a little underrated because that may be one of the best sequences of all time, even though we said there's another better Mission Impossible movie. No, it's really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah. Excellent movie.
Get these Pixar, right? Get these Pixar guys to do. Yeah. You're not the one who did John Mars, right?
No, that's my guy, Andrew Stanton.
Another Pixar guy. Mixing them up.
Yeah. I think Stanton's got a movie coming out later this year, too.
Nice. What about Bird? Oh, didn't Bird go do Tomorrowland?
He did Tomorrowland, and I think he ended up doing Incredibles 2, and I don't know what he's done since then.
That's crazy. I want to say the reason I saw this one, too, in IMAX, without even knowing it, and you know how big of an IMAX head I am. Would you say 2011? I went to go see it because they said there was going to be a trailer for Dark Knight Rises. It was the whole scene of the beginning. That's how well I remember this movie. Yeah.
Nice. And you ended up seeing a great movie as a result. Outsiders, any real love for that? That's a movie that I think is for a generation before us.
Yeah, I heard there's a new cut. I heard there's a new cut that Francis Ford Coppola was able to do that had a lot more wonders and stuff that they didn't want him to do because they wanted to flip this for the readers, for those who really liked, like you said, the Rat Pack. It was almost like the beginning of a YA novel adaptation that they had Francis doing, a movie to really push these heartthrobs. I think Diane Lane is fantastic in the movie, bro. I know like Ralph Macchio and all the ones that people have Google eyes over are like the stars, but I think the relationship with Diane Lane in the movie is really good, and I think it's a decent adaptation. That's why I want to see how he cut it differently, because I think it's a good story. We read the book in school and then saw the movie.
Oh, really?
So I have like a real big attachment to like breaking it down. The one thing I'm missing is the revival, the stage play that Angelina Jolie produced. So it's a story that's still live. It's still moving. I think we get a remake of this within the next decade or two. Get a brand new slate of people.
It just won the Tony for Best Musical as well, so there's no reason why they can't give it a fresh coat of paint, make it a musical movie.
You can remake the book. You could remake the movie, or like you're saying, adapt the musical at this point. So I just want to give the shout out to the Outsiders because I do think that's a story that's going to have legs for a while.
Definitely. Our last first round matchup is between Born on the 4th of July and Eyes Wide Shut. I actually like Born on the 4th of July quite a bit. I have a feeling where you're going. That film from 1989, which stars Tom Cruise as Ron Kovic. He's a man who becomes paralyzed in the Vietnam War and who eventually becomes an anti-war and pro-human rights political activist against the country he fought for. It's directed by Oliver Stone. And very interestingly, this is a movie that Cruise chose to take on because of the amount of sort of patriotic fervor that Top Gun established, that Top Gun was used as a military recruitment tool, and he, as a result of that, he wanted to sort of show another side to the military, and he took on this project. So I think it's really cool just to see the way that Cruise thought about the films he made at this point, and that he was willing to sort of take on these kind of political stances in these films, and wanted to be somebody who represented, the full spectrum of ideas there, didn't want to be just like used as a tool for the military industrial complex. And I think this is also one of Oliver Stone's best films. He's a filmmaker who always is very sort of like has a lot of like righteous fervor. He makes very political movies that have a strong point of view and are trying to teach you something, change your stance, or increase your empathies. And here I feel like those talents are utilized really well. It's a very interesting drama, just sort of giving you the scope of this guy's life. I say all of this high praise about this movie because I'm still voting for Eyes Wide Shut, a movie directed by Stanley Kubrick. Don't need to say more yet.
Yeah, what that man does is insane. But what you're telling me is Born on the 4th of July is him doing your boy Todd Phillips. He just wanted, the follow-up to what Joker did. He just wanted to make sure y'all understood with Joker too. It's his Joker too.
Exactly. He did it for the bad Top Gun fans.
Hey, so why did you do Top Gun Maverick then?
That was for the money. Anyway, we are in the Sweet 16, the 16 best Tom Cruise movies, of which we already decided War of the Worlds and The Firm and Vanilla Sky and Jerry Maguire are not among them. But nonetheless, we continue.
You'll be top 5, just not in the bracket. Mission Impossible, Kanye.
Start with Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible 3.
First?
I'm personally probably going to go Top Gun Maverick, and I know you're a Mission Impossible 3 guy, so I don't know if that puts us in a tricky spot. But I like Maverick more than I like the original Top Gun even. I think it's a really successful movie. It feels like a good heist movie to me.
Yeah. I like how we've been doing a lot of bits.
Thing going. Yeah.
Where we picked a newer one. Mm-hmm. And then this is the one where after anyone can complain on those, well, you got to pick the newer one. Of course, it's better. Look, I'm just going to give Mission Impossible 3 this. The scene in the highway where it explodes and he hits the truck lives in my mind forever. I love that. That's an intro from Marcus Theaters back in the day. That's when you knew the movies were getting it, bro. It would be the Joker saying, and here we go. And they got that explosion. He hits the car. It's one of my favorite stunts that he has done, bro.
Yeah.
And then there's Top Gun freaking Maverick, bro.
Did you know they put the cameras on the fighter jets for that movie?
Ain't no way, bro. Were they up there?
They were really up there, man. They were really up there. Next matchup is between Tropic Thunder and Mission Impossible. The original one, I like Tropic Thunder a lot. I think he's extremely funny in Tropic Thunder. I have a little trouble putting it above Mission Impossible in a Tom Cruise bracket. like I might like Tropic Thunder as much as that original
Yeah.
Mission Impossible movie, but it's a Tom Cruise bracket.
Yeah, it's a Tom Cruise bracket.
Yeah, so Mission Impossible will win that matchup. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning versus Rain Man. We like Rain Man. We like Mission Impossible, or I think you were like mostly positive but a little mixed on Dead Reckoning, right?
Exactly that, bro. So I'm going Rain Man.
It's the worst of the like
Come
the
on.
new run of them, right? It's not a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie. It's what you always say. There's always going to be a movie that's got to be the bottom of the list. So to be like, one of my favorite tweets recently has been, you can fill it in for anything. I just saw someone put a PTA movie last on a PTA list. There's got to be one.
Yeah,
I realized, and we'll get when we get to
one.
the top 5. I mean, for some of the concerts that I've been to, you know when you're at a concert and they start playing the hits, and you're like, wait, it's an hour in. I thought we were at the hits. Sometimes there are songs that are in the top 20, 19, but you vibe to them like they were top 5, top 4. And that's when I realized It's really groups. If you have a top 25, 20 to 25 are number 5. 15 to that section is number 4, number 3.
Yeah, you have your
and
tiers.
then the top 10 are 2. It's tiers. It has to be.
Yeah.
This is the lower tier. That's all we're saying. Oh no.
Yeah, we've arrived at Collateral versus Magnolia, which is extremely tough for me because these might be my top 2 Tom Cruise performances.
Whoa.
You know, Frank
This is the
TJ
finale.
Mackey. Yeah, this could be the finals, right? Very easily would be a great finals matchup. Frank TJ Mackey is such a amazing creation because he's this like extremely charismatic but vile mess of energy. And there's so much about him that's kind of like unlikable, and Cruise is playing him as this like manic energy freak. Yet like the way that he's able to then give you like this sliver of sympathy when you finally see him break down in that movie, that monologue where you see Cruise act with more pain than he's maybe ever put on screen in a character. It's so hard to deny that performance, but if we're talking Tom Cruise bracket, do we have to go with the movie in which he's the star and is also just incredible on every scene?
What is your, I shouldn't say favorite, because favorite can differ. What is the best Tom Cruise performance, and is it not Magnolia?
Well, like, it's definitely my favorite supporting Tom Cruise performance.
I think what he does in that scene that you were describing is he goes to a place where I'm like, okay, no, this is the best I've seen Tom Cruise act.
Yeah. And it's tough, right? Because like that is probably the best Tom Cruise performance. It's just like that.
Truly.
Even in a 3-hour movie, he's probably in like maybe half an hour of it, maybe less.
Yeah. And the deleted scenes are great, and the behind the scenes for that scene you're talking about when he's speaking to his dad. The way he's directed by PTA, bro. Do yourself a favor, go listen to that stuff to get even more context of the headspace he was in. It is his best performance, but in a Tom Cruise movie bracket, I have to go with a movie that I want to say is tied with me, with Magnolia. Magnolia being one of my favorites out of PTA in general, and one of the best movies I believe out there. But I also feel the same way for Collateral, and that's where he is going full throttle. It's a completely different performance, too. That's crazy that he's so bombastic in one. And then in the other, he's like the craziest stone cold killer who's so quiet. I think of the scene in the club when he's just making eye contact with, what's his name? And he's like darting towards him, just shot impeccably.
Yo, homie, is that my briefcase?
The flip of the gun that he does, bro. I know we all use the equalizer bit now, right? But he had some of the first ones where people were like breaking it down going, we've never seen like actual gun use properly. This is how you would do it, how close you're supposed to be to people. Please watch Magnolia if you've never seen it. You will be surprised. It is not a movie that you are expecting because as we're saying, he's not even the main character. Watch that movie, but know that Collateral is making it to the finals.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with Collateral as much as it breaks my heart. And then we'll talk about Top Gun, the original, versus Mission Impossible. Rogue Nation. Are you a Rogue Nation head enough to go over Top Gun?
It's interesting. I think they're tied here. And I think that's a good thing because that shows you how much I like Rogue Nation, what it introduces to the franchise. We keep talking about the Burj Khalifa scene, but it to me, it's got to be Top Gun. I don't think Mission Impossible, while giving us that stunt piece, none of those characters that were added there really continued. Well, I'm lying. What am I saying? She did. I'm comparing it to the other one again. I'm comparing it to Ghost Protocol. Hold on. Rogue Nation. Yeah, it still can't beat Top Gun. I'm sorry. It still can't beat Top Gun. I know you're saying you like Top Gun less than Maverick, and I'm not sure where you put the first Top Gun with the Mission Impossibles, but I'm going Top Gun.
I think I prefer Rogue Nation over Top Gun.
Our first split. All right.
Who can we trust to bring in for this one? Do you want to try Chase?
Let's hit up Chase. Oh, I'm going to text him in case he's working. Let's see what he says. For me, I think the camaraderie that he has with Goose, I think the back and forth with the people that he is trying to one up, I think the scene alone of him coming underneath, while obviously not a thing that he actually did, is one of the cooler set pieces. And like I said, the way Tony Scott shoots this movies with the sunset is something that people have copied forever. I think it's the reason why we ended up having so many movies with the orange. It was always blue and orange, blue and orange, blue and orange. Mm-hmm. I'm going there. But, in case you don't pick up, we had an alt over here. And that's checking out the letterbox scores for our tiebreakers. And if I were to search up Top Gun to see what Chase gave it compared to, what do we say, Rogue Nation?
Ooh, Rogue Nation, yeah.
Because again, Chase surprised himself with his own picks. We got a 3.5 for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. He gave Top Gun 2.5.
Ooh, Chase is a Mission Impossible guy.
You said Amanda? You said you were talking about... All right, I'll give it. We chose Chase. We got to give it there. Let me get him over here. If we were to go... Who'd you say next? Amanda? Let me see what Amanda gave both of these movies.
Yeah.
In terms of Mission Impossible, Amanda did not review it.
Ooh.
Caitlin gave it 4 stars. And then Caitlin gave Top Gun 2 stars. Damn, I'm 0 for 2.
There we go. There we go. The Intercut family have spoken.
All right, Rogue Nation. Why you so homophobic against Top Gun, huh? You ever watch Top Gun? Half the time, they're not even checking out the girls. My man's checking out.
Oh, yeah.
Val Kilmer half the movie, bro.
The homoeroticism is off the charts.
Top Gun means something else for the boys there, but rest in peace, Top Gun. I can't complain because we're moving on the one with the opera scene, so. All right, this is easy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
easy. It's easy.
Minority Report versus Edge of Tomorrow. I think we both know which way we're going, but let's talk a little bit about why Edge of Tomorrow is great and probably would advance in most other matchups.
Emily Blunt, and Emily Blunt.
This is also a cool moment for Tom Cruise. I think this is his first pretty successful movie after that spell of stinkers that he went on. And I think a lot of it is because people enjoyed the chance to get to see him die over and over again on screen.
That too. Also, the mecha suits were cool. The mecha suits actually really made it cool in a year full of Pacific Rims and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like recently we've been seeing more and more time loop stuff, but this is a little bit before that trend really, really took off. You get Source Code a couple years before that, and there's other movies that have obviously done it. But I think Edge of Tomorrow is kind of like a standard bearer when we talk about these time loop movies because it does so much to sort of iterate on and keep finding creative nuances in the retelling of those scenes.
So you're telling me Moon came out 08, 09, and then he makes Oblivion. Source Code comes out 2011, then he makes Edge of Tomorrow. If this man doesn't get off a Duncan Jones...
What, you think he's making a Warcraft movie next?
I was going to go with Mute. I'm looking at Warcraft here. Please, God, no. Maybe that was the Mummy. I don't know, bro. Oh, dear God, please, no. What's Rogue Trooper? What is he doing?
Duncan Jones? I never know what Duncan Jones is doing anymore.
Maybe he should do a movie with Tom Cruise. That would be cool.
Maybe.
Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow. Super sick. Good. Please work on the sequel.
I bet Duncan Jones's Mission Impossible movie would actually be kind of dope. Next
Stop,
matchup
bro.
is
That would be
Mission
crazy.
Impossible Fallout versus Interview with a Vampire. We just eliminated The Color of Money in order to keep Mission Impossible Fallout on this bracket. I'm not letting it lose to Interview with a Vampire.
Where would you put Interview with a Vampire against The Color of Money?
I'm going Color of Money. That's
Fair.
Yeah, I really like The Color of Money. So Fallout wins there, and our last matchup of this round is Ghost Protocol versus Eyes Wide Shut. Any arguments in favor of Ghost Protocol here? We do think it's really underappreciated. We like it a lot.
Pretty good. Yep. What I was saying to it, that was one with the characters that did not continue. You did not get Jeremy Renner coming back, Paula Patton come back. They just stuck to the classics there. Still good, but we'll get more into Eyes Wide Shut and how crazy it is. You ever seen the behind the scenes?
Yeah.
On the treadmill? It was one of the first BTS
only bits
images.
and pieces, yeah.
It's one of the first behind the scenes images that really blew my mind, that he had him on a treadmill. He never walked.
Mm-hmm.
The freaking streets of New York, London, it was a damn, the volume back in the day.
Yeah.
Blew my mind that you don't even
crazy.
go outside with Tom Cruise and put tracks down. Yeah.
All right, let's get into the top 8 movies, and we'll start it off with Top Gun Maverick versus Mission Impossible, the sequel to Top Gun versus the original Mission Impossible film, Joseph Kosinski up against Brian De Palma. As much as I think Top Gun Maverick is really fun and a really successful way to revisit that franchise, really enjoyable time at the movies, that looks amazing, I just think that Mission Impossible has like 3 or 4 of the most iconic action sequences ever put on film. Just the ceiling sequence alone, dropping from the ceiling sequence alone, is probably better than anything in Top Gun Maverick in my mind. I don't know if you're going to argue with me on this one, but I am going to vote for Mission Impossible to advance.
And I will be voting for Top Gun Maverick.
Ooh, interesting.
They're tied for me. 4 stars and a heart. I want to make it spicy. I'm going Top Gun Maverick. Did you know they put cameras on the planes?
They did put cameras on the plane, and they really learned to fly those planes too. Glenn Powell said he threw up. It's really insane.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think we haven't seen the last of the legs of that movie. I mean, Miles Teller is still riding off the coattails of it. Mission Impossible is everything as well. The fact that they're bringing in characters and storylines. The new Dead Reckoning. Final Reckoning seems like they're going to be doing de-aging with them. I think that's a reason why they split it into 2, because they were still working on making sure that they can get those flashback scenes that are going to be in black and white to reminisce, I think, moments in the first Mission Impossible. So, whenever this comes out, we have not seen the newest one, and I think there is stuff in the newest Mission Impossible that is going to elevate the original.
Right.
But it ain't out yet, so I'm picking Top Gun Maverick.
You haven't done your reevaluation yet.
I have not been able to add that extra push.
Do we need Amanda to settle the tie then?
Let's do it.
Hello, how's it going? We are recording our Tom Cruise bracket, and we need you to
Help.
settle
Help.
a tie between Top Gun Maverick and the original Mission Impossible movie.
Oh God! You know what? I'm gonna give it to Mission Impossible.
There we go. All right.
But you can't beat that score, you know. That alone gives it the edge. So yeah, I gotta give it to Mission Impossible.
All right, you chose right on this matchup.
Thanks, Amanda.
Congratulations, we're aligned again.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Call up Chase. Chase gave Top Gun. Hey, I can't argue for it. I mean, they're tied for me. So yeah, that's fair. All right, awesome. It's been around longer.
Yeah, it's a classic that launched a long-running franchise for a reason. And Amanda's right, man. That score is so iconic too. I used to be able to play it on
remixing it for 9 movies straight. It's like the Game of Thrones one, right? They did the spin-off.
Yeah.
And it's like,
If it
we're
ain't
not
broke,
doing a
don't
White
fix
Lotus
it.
stuff if it ain't broke. Oh, that's so funny.
All right, let's keep things going with Rain Man versus Collateral. Art, did you say you rewatched Rain Man, or is that
I don't
just
need to
a movie
rewatch
that
Rain
you
Man.
don't
It's
need
just
to?
a movie. Yeah, that was part of that Blockbuster days, renting everything. Yeah, no. I know Rain Man specifically, and I go back to scenes of it as well, like you were saying, when new movies homage it, but it's Collateral.
Yeah,
It's Collateral.
It's Collateral for me too. That's just the movie that I have the greater fondness for it. Rain Man, a Best Picture winner, nominated for several Oscars, won 4 of them. So a lot of people really love that movie, but Collateral, number 1 in my heart.
I ask myself this question sometimes. Both movies are playing back in a theater. If they're playing this one in 35, I'm watching Collateral again at the Music Box.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good way to decide.
Yeah.
100%.
Collateral.
Mission Impossible Rogue Nation versus Minority Report. We don't have a lot of Mission Impossible movies left on the bracket, but we still got a couple. Don't think that Rogue Nation's going to make it past this round, though.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Minority Report.
I saw that in the future, too. In the past.
All right, now we got a harder question because it's Mission Impossible Fallout versus Eyes Wide Shut. I had not seen the iconic Stanley Kubrick film until last night when I prepared for this episode. The movie, which is a psychosexual drama about a doctor who, after his wife admits to having sexual fantasies about a different man, he becomes obsessed with having a sexual encounter of his own and gets lured into a obscure world of sex parties and masquerades and all sorts of iconic visual imagery that really has been referenced countless times in the years since then.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah, just as any Stanley Kubrick film is, like an incredibly memorable dissection of human psychology and desire, with just so many memorable scenes and visuals. How do you feel about this matchup? Because these couldn't be more different movies. A really heady, thoughtful drama and an edge of your seat action thriller. But both movies that I love, at least now.
How late did you watch it?
I mean, pretty late. I think I've seen it within the last 16 hours.
What state of mind did you watch it?
I had just come back from some drinks, so I had a little bit of buzz, and it's a buzzy movie. It's an alluring movie.
I love Fallout, and I know the difference from me loving a movie so much that I could still call it one of my favorites, give it the extra half star, and so forth. But I know the difference between something that needs to go ahead of favoritism. And that is what Eyes Wide Shut is. To cast 2 people and play off of their marriage, sick work.
Right?
Absolutely sick work.
Maybe the movie that ended their marriage. It's so fascinating.
The movie that, hey, what do you make after this? Oh, that's right, he died. like, bro.
Literally finished Final Cut days before his death, apparently.
Literally died after making this movie. What?
Yeah.
Well, wasn't he working on AI, gave it to Spielberg to finish?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's Eyes Wide Shut. And you know I love Mission Impossible, bro. It's Eyes Wide Shut. This is how you know. You can disagree with us in the first half of the bracket. No. I got to be honest here. I love Fallout. I would love for it to be at the top. My personal list, it would be even higher. But if this is a bracket where we're not doing our rankings and we're doing matchup to matchup, Eyes Wide Shut is ridiculous, bro. It feels like it's imbued and was reviewed by a cult to tell you what to fix and what not.
Right. It is so mysterious and fascinating.
Wow.
Just endlessly dissectable for sure. I finished it and immediately went to Letterboxd to read everybody's review of it. It's just such an interesting movie. It's such a killer ending. And I love Fallout. Like you said, this is not meant
it's the best
to
Mission
be
Impossible movie.
Yeah. It's Fallout is full of just incredible pulse pounding sequences, some of the most incredible action filming that we've seen. At the same point, I'm not sure I can tell you what the plot was of Mission Impossible Fallout. Maybe that's just because there's so many of them at this point.
Just to go get the thingy.
So I'm happy to put Eyes Wide Shut through into our final 4 here.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got 4 movies left. They are Mission Impossible Fallout, Collateral, Minority Report, and Eyes Wide Shut.
Not bad. It's almost like he's got a lot of great movies. We got a mission in. We got some sci-fi.
We got a
some
drama,
cult.
we got some sci-fi, some action. We got all the different Tom Cruise genres here. Just not the romantic comedy. Maybe we should have fought a little harder for Jerry Maguire, but
Night and
I'm
day.
happy with these 4 movies. We got to decide what is our final one, though. And first, we're talking about Mission Impossible versus Collateral. Now, I have to ask you this question, and I love you. I'm sorry, I don't want to do this. Are we letting our personal love of Collateral cloud our judgment?
I
Or
get
are we
this a
going to
lot.
go with Collateral?
I get this a lot of this is my Denis Villeneuve explanation when people go, "You only like that movie because Denis Villeneuve is your favorite film director," and I ask, "Were you dropped?" He's my favorite director because he makes movies I like. I don't understand how this math works. It has
Right.
always been a ridiculous way to tell people, "You're very cohesive here. Let me hit you with something. It's a bias." There ain't no bias. It's facts. Collateral to this day can be played in a theater, and there's no other movies matching it. It
Yeah.
already beat what we considered one of his best performances just because in Magnolia it was supporting. What this movie lives and breathes, it's a movie that can be rewatched infinitely. I love Mission Impossible. You're lying to me if it hasn't aged within the context of its own franchise.
Right.
I love
Right.
it. But you rewatch that, and 2, you do feel like they're of that era. It's not a bad thing. I don't know what you want to call
No.
it. The Collateral
And
feels like a period piece of that moment.
Right.
That still
And
feels
those
like it could
early
be
Mission
remade.
Impossible movies are a little bit more modest than what the franchise became, right? Like they aren't these $100 million blockbusters. They're more like mid-budget action movies, and they've done a lot
Fast
with
and
that
Furious
franchise.
before becoming
Right.
global,
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
You
To me,
feel there's a bias?
Collateral. No, I just want to explore it, right? Because like sometimes you can decide what your opinion is because you have an allegiance, and it's like, well, I know that I choose Collateral over just about any
Easily.
other Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
But then you have to like interrogate it. Why am I choosing it
Exactly.
above any other Tom Cruise movie? And that is because I think the hitman genre is like one of the classic film genres, right? Like the guy who has this tough job and often crosses paths with somebody who isn't okay with their line of work, but here you have the aging hitman sort of at the end of his rope, and
Yeah.
I think it just does that so well. It's become kind of like the staple of the genre for me, the template for the genre for me. There's just so much I love about that film. I'm happy to go with Collateral over Mission Impossible, as great as Mission Impossible is.
I even look at the Fallout Eyes Wide Shut bracket. I had just said right before this, I am willing to put my love for Fallout to the side for Eyes Wide Shut. So when I don't do it for Collateral, I'm not playing around. I'm being serious right there. Or Zach, I'm that delusional for Collateral.
Right, you might be. Are you
there ain't
also
no fixing that at that point?
Are you equally that delusional for Minority Report
Thoroughly,
when
I
it
don't
goes
care.
up against
Let's
Eyes
fight
Wide
about it.
Shut?
I don't care. Let's fight about it. Let's fight. It's
do you want?
Minority Report. It's Minority Report. It's Minority Report. He gave his follow-ups. Kubrick gave it to Spielberg. That's Spielberg.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with you here. I love I love Minority Report, and maybe I need to like still revisit Eyes Wide Shut and like think about it and read more
you're
about
gonna
it.
be messed
and-
up. Yeah.
Right? Like I still have I haven't gone as deep as I need to with that movie, but I have gone pretty deep with Minority Report, and I still continually just am fascinated by it. And it feels really unique. It is also like comes at a time where, because of the changing film technologies, I feel like there's no movie that even looks like it since then. It's
Because
just-
you get those sequences, right, with the contacts, where or his eyes, because they swap out, he's seeing different advertisements, and just the way that they build that world. I absolutely love Minority Report, dude.
Yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut is also one of those movies where like you're not watching it with the boys immediately again on the weekend.
Did you watch Eyes Wide Shut too early, you think, or at least like a first time? Because like that's also a movie that you have to have a certain level of maturity and maybe even like a certain level of understanding of how relationships evolve to really fully get at.
I had no business watching that and the singing in the rain scene from what's it called, the Milk one, Clockwork Orange. It was there needs to be They should put ratings on when to see these movies.
Yeah, maybe we should have a motion picture association who's in charge of that.
They're definitely worth the rewatch, and I understand why people would go Eyes Wide Shut. The same way, you know, those who may go for Jerry Maguire and the like, but for me, it's got to be Minority Report. There's way more that I would argue for that film in general, but both are movies that do grow in time. This idea of cults and the reading that Eyes Wide Shut has to do with trafficking and the like, you can connect that to a lot of things here. But Minority Report and everything that we're going through now and the targeting, especially through technology, I mean, like you called it, it's just becoming more and more prescient every single day. Single day. So now
our finals are Collateral versus Minority Report. According to Letterboxd, these are the 13th and 11th most popular Tom Cruise movies. So we're not going with the chalk, the cream of the crop. We've identified our favorite undersung heroes.
We're here to promote them.
If it says anything, I mean, yeah. After this podcast, we'll see him surge up the rankings. Right? That's it.
What year's Minority?
Minority Report was 2002. Was it? Yeah.
What year's Collateral?
2004. I mean, we are some 90s babies. We are very 90s babies here.
But it's also what I'm telling you. To me, that was that peak of him doing a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. He's not doing drama anymore. It's strictly action. He's not doing full indie like he used to. This was the period in time where Collateral, Minority Report, and War of the Worlds, all these different things that he was doing right there, was a mixture of everything. This was him in his bag. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're 90s kids, but this is also, I think, what we've been arguing for peak Tom Cruise. The mixture of both. Are you going first?
I think I want to hear what you say first.
They're pretty even for me. I'm not even going to lie.
Maybe I was wondering if the best way to settle this is to actually reveal what your top 5 Tom Cruise movies are.
Minority Report.
Do you have your list?
Collateral. That was pretty easy. Long story short, yeah, right? I think I'm going there. Minority Report.
You're going Minority Report.
I'm going Minority Report.
That's where we differ, because I think I want to go Collateral.
And it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Both great movies. We're not going to really argue the other one off of an opinion. So what are your top 5? I got my top 5 ready if you need it.
Yeah, hit me with yours first.
So at number 5, I have a 5-way tie. I couldn't choose between Edge of Tomorrow, War of the Worlds, Jerry Maguire, Color of Money, or Eyes Wide Shut for that 5th spot. It's one of those movies. That's probably like my top 10 right there, plus one more, plus throw in another Mission Impossible movie there. But yeah, those movies are great. Number 4, I got Minority Report. I have it a little lower on my list than yours. Number 3, I'm putting Mission Impossible Fallout. That is my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies. Great movie. Number 2, I'm putting Magnolia, even though it is probably my favorite movie of the movies mentioned. But if I'm going a Tom Cruise top 5, I got Collateral at number 1.
So you're going Collateral, Magnolia, and your 3 was what again?
Mission Impossible Fallout, Minority Report, and then let's say Color of Money for now.
Yeah, I think I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I guess these are 7. Rain Man, Maverick. I think I'd go War of the Worlds. And then a tie at 3rd for Fallout and Magnolia in terms of like his best action, his best performance. Right. And then either way, it's then Collateral, Minority Report. It's then Collateral, and we're talking like a half-star difference between Collateral and Minority Report.
I could try Amanda one more time if we want.
Well, our top 2 are Minority Report, you said?
Yeah.
And Collateral?
Let's see what she says, yeah. Howdy. We need your help one more time, but we're in the finals, so it'll be...
Okay.
Yeah, so it's extra important time.
It's just the biggest decision, Amanda.
It is Minority Report versus Collateral.
Ooh, okay. Actually, famously don't like Collateral, so I have to give it to Minority Report.
Oh no! You let me down.
I don't know why.
We won.
I don't love Michael Mann. I'm sorry. So I've got to
get that checked, Amanda. But thank you.
I thought I could trust you.
Even Collateral might have technically be a better movie, but I don't, and I haven't seen Minority Report.
it's
since I was,
Minority Report.
12, but I gotta give it to it.
Art says no, it's Minority Report. So, oh man. All right.
Sorry.
I've entered into this equation. I have to deal with the results. Thank you for picking up.
No problem. Bye.
Bye. Oh,
Excellent.
You win this
Let's do
round,
it.
Zarita. Okay,
Minority Report,
we are
baby.
giving the Tom Cruise bracket over to Minority Report. Collateral loses in the final round. But look, I love Minority Report. I can't be upset with that.
Minority
a lot of my
Report is
favorite
great.
movies. Yeah, and a lot of great Tom Cruise movies to talk about. A lot of great Tom Cruise movies to appreciate whenever. So we're going with movies from our favorite era. Minority Report wins it. I'm sure you're happy about that. But yeah, I think that's just about it. Any final thoughts on your man, Tom Cruise? Do you have you observed your thetan levels recently?
I have not in a minute. I need to get those up so the Cubs can get more wins. But just double checking over here between some of the other Intercuties and our partners and everyone else who's come on the show to see their comparisons. Caitlin would have been a dead even. I'm curious to know what her thoughts would have been because
Ooh.
she went 4 stars, I want to say, on both. I could be mistaken here. 4 stars on Minority. Your girl gave it... She would have been dead even. I am curious. Ask her.
Ooh.
What her split
Yeah, I
would
just
have
said to her, she goes to Collateral, so you're lucky we went with Amanda instead of Caitlin to
Ew.
be the final tiebreaker there.
that was a close one right there.
Yeah, look, she's trying to
see?
preserve our relationship, so maybe she's got a little bias.
She's tuning in live. She's like, I got you. No, I mean, again, we're arguing with my 1 and 2. I'm happy either way that it goes. They're all easily, movies that have made Tom Cruise the star that he is for a reason. And I enjoy the idea that, even out of all the action movies, to me, that sci-fi action has so much thought for it. I don't think of the action set pieces in that movie. I think about the ideas in that movie. In the same way that Collateral, one of my favorite shots, we talked about the gun one. We talked about the part in the nightclub.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about those lights. And when the wolf scene happens... People have been talking about Sinners and that scene in Sinners and them feeling something. When I saw Collateral, I felt something in that wolf scene that it was just visual, and I went, so that's what movies do. Got it.
Right.
I don't even
Right.
understood. I did not. I don't think I still fully even grasp it if I were to rewatch it again. But there is just a way man captures that with the wolf staring at them. I don't know. There's just something about that. So I would have gladly have also given it to Collateral. Let me make a couple calls. I might even give it to you as well. Either way, it's in the top 2, and that's really all that matters.
I might have to go rewatch both these movies tonight and decide for myself which one is the better one. But
Same, bro. Both movies, if they're playing in theaters, get my
Yes.
approval of I'm dropping the money outside of even A-list.
100%. 100%. But I think that just about does it for this week's show and our Tom Cruise bracket. We'll be talking more Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible Final Reckoning soon for sure. We want to know your favorite Tom Cruise movies and what you would have chosen to win the bracket. So head over to the link in the description on theatzshow.com to download this bracket. We'll also post it across social medias. And I always love when people send us their completed brackets. Maybe we can feature a couple of the finished brackets on the show as well.
Yeah.
So download a bracket, play along, let us see your results, comment with your top 5 Tom Cruise movies, whether you are Team Collateral or Team Minority Report as well. We'd love to hear it. Let us know.
And your favorite scenes, I'm curious, in the comment section.
Yeah.
Let me know, what's that one scene in Live, Die, Repeat or in anything else that you really like. One of my favorites in Rogue Nation, Fallout, is when the aspect ratio opens as he jumps on the helicopter.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh,
beautiful
so
stuff.
Good.
Beautiful
so good.
stuff.
You got a scene that comes to mind when you think of him, besides jumping on couches?
I mean, if it's probably the crying at his father's bedside in Magnolia, or hanging off the Burj Khalifa, but it's also yelling, "Show me the money." He's a man who's got so many iconic moments.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. It's really been stuck in my head. Y'all think I'm gonna flip out? That's Jim Carrey.
Cruise,
ask, bro.
Probably one, absolutely Jim Carrey-esque. Cruise, probably one of our elite movie yellers.
Even when it's just the audio rolling. I'm sad.
Shout out to the Mission Impossible 7 crew. That's all for this episode. Catch more from me, Zach Shevich, across social media at ZShevich or anywhere you find videos at Multiplex Show. I am ZSHEV as in Valkyrie, ICH. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me over at LME Movies on Letterboxd, Twitter, X, whatever it's called, YouTube, all that good stuff. Find me at Wrigley Field for a majority of the season and every week here with new episodes from the Intercut podcast.
Cruz has got to do a stunt off the vines in Wrigley. Got to climb up them or something. I don't know.
You got to PCA him or something. Yeah, get hurt.
Although maybe a better Mission Impossible style stunt is like scaling the Green Monster, something like that.
Scaling the Green Monster would be sick. There's also helping the Sox get a win. I think would be an impossible task. You can listen to every episode.
You can listen to every episode of Intercut on iTunes or Spotify or Pocket Casts or my favorite podcatcher, Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can catch our exhausted from running as fast as we can faces as we go through the latest in entertainment.
What'd you say it was that he gets?
Oh, Thetans. Our
Thetanized faces.
Our high Thetan levels every week here on Intercut. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday. And please leave us a comment, like the videos, consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Shout out to our listeners. I gotta bring up pod status and see where we're trending right now, actually, because we are trending in a few different places like Singapore, Nigeria, UAE, Algeria, Poland, Netherlands,
Dubai,
New Zealand, Japan, Switzerland, Brazil, Canada, and of course here in the United States.
We're from there.
Shout out to all our listeners there. Tom Cruise. Where's Tom Cruise from? Tom Cruise is from
another planet.
Syracuse, New York. I mean, yeah, originally speaking, but his soul landed in Syracuse, New York in 1962.
Someone said that at a comedy show. They said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Chicago." No, where's your face from?
Like our Facebook, our Instagram, our X, Twitter, whatever, our Blue Sky and whatever pages. You can follow us on Patreon for updates about the podcast. You can find all those pages at Intercut Pod or the website /Intercut Pod. You'll get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from all the guests that we feature on Intercut, maybe some Tom Cruise updates occasionally, all that good stuff. You can also find that stuff in our Discord server, which there is a link to in the description of this episode. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, show me the money!
Woo!